Fire them up. That's what we're doing here at the Andrew Gosser Show, 1039 WYAB. Yep, we're streaming on Rumble. Yep, we're streaming on X. Yep, we're streaming on YouTube. Yep, we're streaming at the mothership, WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up the 50,000 watt blowtorch of a signal that is 1039 WYAB, like, share, and subscribe to the stream. Share it with a friend, share it with a neighbor, share it with someone who might be interested in learning about stuff. That's what I would appreciate. You can also follow me on X, and you're going to want to do it today. The second hour, we're going to be talking about the Southern Poverty Law Center in ways that you never would have thought we were going to do it. But hey, we got to do what we got to do. Not going to want to miss that. But no matter what the story is on the Andrew Gosser Show, you are the mission. And what's the mission at the Andrew Gosser Show? To equip the saints. And who are the saints? Y'all are the saints. Now, if you saints want to call in, that'd be great. 601-879-0002. Text line is open. 879 or 601-879-5060. I did get a lot of texts after the show yesterday saying great show, thanking the work I did. And I just wanted to say thank you to all of you who did that. I got to share some of that with my family, and it really does make a positive impact on the show. There is so much going on in the world, and there's two main stories for me in my sphere of influence that are impacting me. And I know that I probably think a little bit different than some of the other people. The one thing that's really got me fired up right now is the war with Iran and how it's being prosecuted. And with that, you can throw in a little sprinkling of Israel, which we'll get to. And then the other thing that's getting me is this Southern Poverty Law Center and taking me places I don't want to go. But we're going to go there together in a respectful tone and manner. But we have to start off with the war in Iran. And what is really getting to me, it's not getting to me, it's just what I perceive, because that's how the United States Air Force trained me to look at stuff. The Navy just wanted me to go fix F-14s and teach people how to fix F-14s. The Air Force allowed me to apply battleship knowledge, airspace knowledge. Good stuff. 13 Bravo, Air Battle Manager. Loved it. What our assets are in the theater? How are they used? How can they best be integrated in a net-centric warfare configuration? And now we got the digital space, outer space. I mean, the capability of the United States military is truly second to none. But the biggest opponent that we're facing right now is not Iran. It is not Russia. It is not China. For you Israel haters out there, it's not Israel. The real enemy, the biggest weapon out there that I see facing the United States military is ourselves. And yesterday I got sent a video from an unknown texter who just shoots me videos all the time. And I'm just sitting there and I always say thank you, but I just don't always have time to watch it. But I had time to watch this one. And this is 8 minutes and 2 seconds of absolute rock gut news journalism, or supposed news journalism from the Communist News Network. And I want to subject us to it. We're going to, dare I say, inoculate ourselves from this stuff. And we're going to break it up with commentary and thoughts on it. But I did the research on their quote unquote sources. And I'm here to tell you that their sources are suspect. There are some good ideas on this, but it really goes to show you that this is nothing more than a racket for the military-industrial complex. And with that, let's go.
CNN has learned that the U.S. military has significantly depleted its stockpile of key missiles during the war with Iran. And according to experts,
Well, there's the hook right there. Uh-oh, U.S. depleted missile stockpile in the Iranian war. Although we can't call it a war because Congress won't declare it a war, and neither will President Trump. I'm sure if Trump said, I don't want to declare it a war, Congress would make it a war. If Trump said he wanted it a war, Congress would say no. So we just go and continue to play that silly little game.
This reduction is so severe, it has created a near-term risk of the U.S. running out of ammunition.
Critical missile shortage, showing looks like a SM-3 being launched out of a ship. And definitely got the hooks in there. You know, all those poor mind-numbed robots who do nothing but consume CNN and MSLSD every day. Wow, they're in trouble.
Should a future conflict arise in the next few years? CNN's Natasha Bertrand is with us now with her reporting on this. It's some new reporting here.
And this is where it's going to start getting good. And we're going to use not only Miss Natasha InfoBabe report, but we're also actually going to go to the report that they put out on their own website.
Natasha, walk us through what you've learned.
Yeah, Brianna. So according to this new study by the Center for Strategic and International Studies,
Center for Strategic and International Studies. Who is that? Well, most people aren't going to go look that up, but I certainly will. Yep. The Center for Strategic and International Studies. It's a self-description and structure. It explicitly describes itself as a bipartisan organization. It emphasizes nonpartisan scholar independence and analysis rigor. It routinely features experts and events with participants from both the Democrat and Republican administration. That's very key right there. This is nonpartisan or bipartisan. This just doesn't make sense. In the first sentence, it says it's bipartisan. In the next sentence, it says it's a nonpartisan. Then it says it's got Democrats and Republicans. What is it? It talks to both Democratic and Republican administrations, Congress, and foreign governments. Well, that's good to know. Every major commission or project typically has co-chairs from both parties. And this is coming from its own website. So what I want to know is, before we get any deeper into this, and before we bring on another expert, when someone is funding a study, you want to know who's funding it, because you know who's ever funding this study. This goes for science, this goes for NASA, this goes for biology. Whoever's funding the study, you can pretty much get the picture of who's actually, or how the story is going to be written out. So listen, who's funds the Center for Strategic and International Studies. The United States and allied governments, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and United Arab Emirates. That seems good so far. Defense contractors, Raytheon, Boeing, Northrop Grumman. All they're missing is Lockheed. Corporations, ExxonMobil, Microsoft, Bank of America. You see where this is going? See how they're using the media to manipulate, not you or I. We're strong enough to figure this stuff out on our own. We go dig to that next level. Foundations across the spectrum, left-leaning ones like Hewitt, Carnegie Mellon, and Open Society, and right-leaning ones like Charles Koch. The Koch brothers are involved in this, and Smith Richardson. So what we have here is a self-licking ice cream cone. And we're not even 30 seconds into the story yet. We know that everybody's scratching each other's back because we are depleting missiles in war. Imagine that. And we're doing good. It's tragic and sad that we lost 13 valiant service members. Their lives will not be lost in vain. They will not be sacrificed in vain. We will make this a better place. And we've lost a few airplanes and some drones. And the lefties are more worried about the drones. But I just wanted to know, before we get this all rolling downhill here, who's actually funding the money?
Which was, their findings were confirmed by 3 sources familiar with recent Pentagon assessments of U.S.
Okay, who are the 3 sources? because now whenever I hear a mainstream media network say sources, I'm thinking Lakers. Just like that guy who was in charge of the Army nuclear defense, who got Eric Swalwelled by James O'Keefe's group. Oh yeah, but that media made that come out and seem like we're screwing everything up. No, no, it's not. It is some poor, smart, intelligent, horny dude getting catfished. And me as a Gen Xer, I don't understand this. Maybe many of you Gen Xers understand this too. You don't put anything in a text. You don't say anything on a cell phone. You just don't do those things. I can tell you that when I was going in for my TS SCI, man, they put the fear of God in me, truly. Well, not to the complete fear of God, but right next to it. I was not going to divulge any secrets knowingly or unknowingly. I knew that if I was drinking, I wasn't talking shop outside the squadron bar, of course. If I was going out, I was always on the lookout for, hey, who's probing me for information here and trying to get something out of me. But nope, we see it all the times with both the left and the right. This isn't a left-wing thing or a right-wing thing, but yeah, that the Army nuclear guy, he gone.
Stockpiles. The U.S. is running dangerously low on some of these key munitions that would be required.
Dangerously low. You got to tell me what dangerously low is. Is it below 70%, 50%, 40%, 30%? You got to let me know here.
To confront a near-peer adversary in the short term, like China, for example. So while the U.S. does still have sufficient munitions to continue bombing Iran, for example, if the shaky ceasefire were to fall apart, if they were to need to confront an adversary like China or like Russia, for example, then that could pose significant problems.
And sure am glad that China's not getting any oil to fund their war machine right now. All the cheap oil they were getting from Venezuela and Iran has been effectively cut off. Remember when we said that Iran was the chief proxy of terror around the world? Well, who was funding Iran? Whoever was buying Iran's oil. Why was it that the Chi-Coms were in Venezuela, in Cuba? Because they were fighting a proxy war against us, much like we're fighting a proxy war against them. We're just being very much more in the open and talking about oil. We're not supposed to be so blatant and obvious about it. No, it's oil. You want to talk about dangerously low levels, go look at China's oil reserves right now compared to America's oil reserves. You know, right now, from a military plan, even if China wanted to go do something, they would have to go and get a lot of oil from Russia. And Russia too busy dealing with Ukraine. Again, proxy war. And when we get back, I'm actually gonna go through the actual numbers because, of course, well, let's let the CNN info babe finish up here real quick.
For the United States. Now, just to give you an example of how much the U.S. stockpile has been depleted over the last 7+ weeks of war on Iran, according to this assessment and the sources that we spoke to, the U.S. military has expended at least 45% of its stockpile of precision strike missiles, at least half of its inventory of THAAD missiles, which are designed to intercept ballistic missiles, and nearly 50% of its stockpile of Patriot air defense interceptor missiles, which are, of course, very key air defense munitions. Now,
that might be true. That might be true. Does everybody know what a THAAD is? A Theater High Air Defense Anti-Air Missile System. Everybody knows what a Patriot is because we all watched Gulf War I and Gulf War II. We're on something called the PAC-3. Could there be something else out there? I remember sharing on this very radio station, the United States was bragging about its new PlayStation 5 controller laser system that shoots down incoming airplanes and drones. Could there be a new, cheaper way to do it. I don't know. But you know what I did do? I did do my research for y'all, and I've got the study pulled up right here, and they made a key graph. And we're gonna take our commercial break, but when we get back, we're gonna talk about all those missile systems that nice info babe said, and we're gonna get into it even deeper. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. And you know what today is? Today is another day in Divinity Rental and Equipment Kubota Orange Days through June 30th. Now through June 30th, take advantage of Kubota Orange Days at Divinity Rental and Equipment, featuring big savings, including 0% financing offers on thousands of select tractors, mowers, and equipment like cutters, like the one I bought from Divinity. From tractors to zero-turn mowers and to excavators and skid steers, Devaney offers a full lineup of high-performance equipment to handle any job, big or small. Serving Mississippi for over 50 years, Devaney's knowledgeable team is committed to helping you find the right equipment with dependable service and support. Devaney Rental and Equipment, located in Madison on Highway 51 near Gluckstadt, and the location I go see my man, Brother Blair, at Jackson, Spring Ridge Road, south of I-20. And the website is DeVineyEquipment.com. That's DeVineyEquipment.com. And we really appreciate your support in the show. It means a lot. We were talking about the apparent shortage of missiles. Well, in this list of missiles that the InfoBabe put out, the Center for Strategic and International Studies actually put out missiles. So like Tomahawks. Did you know that one Tomahawk missile launch is $2.8 or $2.6 million? $2.6 million. Estimated pre-war inventory, 3,100. We've used approximately 850 of these weapons, maybe more. And they say to build one Tomahawk missile takes 47 months. 4-year financing, 4 years on that. Whoever's making the Tomahawk is getting a good bit of money right there. That industrial military complex is rocking hard. JASM, and I used to remember what that is, but I can't anymore. I should remember. I just don't. $2.6 million per copy. We had 4,400 of those, guys, and we've spent over 1,000 of them. How long does it take to make one of those suckers? 48 months. Then we've got our precision strike missile coming in at roughly 1.6 million each. How many do we have in the inventory? 90. How many have we spent? Somewhere between 40 to 70. And it takes 46 months to build another one of those. Then we've got our standard missiles 3 and 6. Man, you guys, I hope you're sitting down right here. You're sitting down right here. Who the hell afforded this? Standard missile 3, $28.7 million each. And we've spent, or we estimated pre-war, 410 missiles we had in storage. We've used somewhere between 130 to 250 of them. And it takes 64 months to build a SM-3. Man, just think if I took this to the next level and like started breaking down what each individual capability was, how long it took to make it, who was the main manufacturer, who were all the sub-manufacturers, who were the congressional senators and Congress critters who were getting a slice of this. And an SM-3 is a standard missile 3. SM-6 is a standard missile 6. That's what a lot of our ships have on them. Only 5.3 million a shot. 1,160 in the inventory, and we've spent somewhere between 190 and 370. And it only takes 53 months to build a new one. THAAD missiles. This is our high altitude defense missile. 15.5 million each. We have 360 of those guys, and we've spent as many as 290 of them. Takes 53 months. And then everybody knows the Patriot missile, near and dear to my heart. Had a good friend who commanded a battery. $3.9 million each. We had 2,330 in the inventory, and we've blown through 1,430. And it takes 42 months. So there is a shortage there if you're going by these conventional weapons. Let's continue with the InfoBabe.
U.S. military has also expended approximately 30% of its Tomahawk missiles stockpile, which are those long-range munitions that are really key to attacking targets further away. More than 20% of its stockpile of long-range joint air-to-surface standoff missiles, and approximately 20% of its SM-3 and SM-6 missiles. Now, this is important because these munitions take a while to be replaced. And according to our sources and this analysis, it would take anywhere between 1 to 6 years to replace a.
Who are the sources again? That's what really I want to get. So when I'm saying something, I've heard that on the Andrew Gosser show. That's my source. when you have these reporters or info babes on CNN and MSNBC, on any news station, and they say sources, Pentagon sources say, I want to know who the leaker is, because when I hear source, I think leak. I do.
Lot of these munitions. And so this is a really big problem that we should note that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dan Kane, he actually warned about as the administration was preparing to potentially go to war with Iran. He was raising concerns, we're told, about this issue of.
You know, we have this thing called a war plan, and it's always dealt to go with two simultaneous wars at the same time. And right now, if you think about it, we're actually in two wars at the same time, Iran and Ukraine. Because where's Ukraine ultimately getting all of its weapons from? The United States. Yeah. Great Britain, Germany, France, Spain, all buy weapons from us. And then they just shift them on over to Zelensky over there in the Ukraine, and off they go. And it's just a big way for us to funnel through the throughput, to keep the defense companies in business, keeping it in line. And look, I'm a conservative Republican. I'm not so dumb and naive to not realize what the hell's going on here. And we're not even to the defense analyst who comes in and talks about this. That's going to flip your lid.
Depleted stockpiles around the world, particularly ones that could be very useful to U.S. allies like Israel and Ukraine.
Unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. Unbelievable. We're going to take an early break because my computer decided to take a break. And when we get back, we'll continue this. We're not going to let Windows 11 ruin our day. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back.
CNN has learned that the U.S. military.
How many
are actually back in the problem that we should note that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dan Kane, he actually warned about as the administration was preparing.
Online audience, I just want to say thanks for hanging in there. I can't make it up. The computer just shuts down and reboots itself, saying critical Windows update required. Boom. What the heck does that? I don't know, but I got luckily for us, I got everything saved and backed up, so it won't take us too long to get this all sorted out. And as soon as we get back from commercial break, we're just going to have a much longer segment. I really appreciate everybody hanging in there. Yeah, and we are back. Systems rebooted. And I just want to remind everybody, one of the organizations that's funding this study here that we're debating and talking about, and we're going to completely blow up, Microsoft. I'll tell you what, the sooner I can get to Linux, the better off I'm going to be. But we were getting ready to go into ending up on this info babe, and then we're going to have a retired major come on and give his points. And this is the part that I really wanted to get to. I did get some text while we were in there, and let's hit those up. While I agree we are our own worst threat, I'd say it's not because of weapons, it's because the general population lack all self-reliance. One hiccup in the system, just in time delivery, and most are in a bad situation. You're right. You know, those people who are looked at funny because we have a cellar full of our own canned vegetables that we grew on our own farms, we're considered the weird ones. And you said, what if running out of conventional weapons is the plan? That's a good point. That's a good point. Brother Junk texts in and says, does the Pentagon allow that kind of information out? Well, apparently it does, because there hasn't been a retraction yet. This hasn't been pulled down. And Junk continues to say, well, it seems kind of classified to me. I'm sure the very exact numbers are somewhat fudged. Whether you want to be more optimistic or pessimistic type of person, your mileage may vary. But let's finish up with this info babe, because she's just sitting there being the mouthpiece reporting the article, which is fine. But I want you to hear what some of our major military thinkers are thinking, because this was what was really frightening to me.
Preparing to potentially go to war with Iran, he was raising concerns, we're told, about this issue of depleted stockpiles around the world, particularly ones that could be very useful to U.S. allies like Israel and Ukraine. So
No. Israel and Ukraine, they can deal with themselves. Israel already got the F-35. And again, let's not kid ourselves either. With Israel, we give them weapons. We know that they're going to use them. And I'm not supporting Israel. I'm not attacking Israel. I'm just saying they like to use the stuff that they're given, whether it be American or otherwise.
the Pentagon is preparing to ask for a supplemental from Congress for additional funding to try to replace.
And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I think one of the real key points is we're going to need another $500 billion to go ahead and start up the Tomahawk line, start up the Patriot line, the THAAD line, the SM-3. Well, we need a lot of those, $46 million each, and we spent 80 of them. No, that's going to be a pretty bill. That's one line of thinking. My other line of thinking is I'm going to hold off until the good major talks.
These munitions, but it could still take quite some time before those are actually back in U.S. stockpiles, Brianna.
All right. Thank you, Natasha, for the reporting. Boris?
Joining us now to discuss this and more regarding the war with Iran is retired Army Major Harrison Mann. He's a former Defense Intelligence Agency official, also the Associate Campaigns Director for Win Without War.
How do you win a war without going to war? Good morning, Dogfish. That's what I want to know. When I get these organizations win without war, this has already got the Rainbow Brigade written all over it.
Major, thanks so much for being with us. When you hear that report, how much do the...
Last thing real quick, you can see the coffee cup, the styrofoam coffee cup is perfectly positioned at the major's left shoulder. It's so staged and manufactured and produced. And that's not how journalism works. That's not how real world things work. If you come into a WYAB studio, you'll see it's got a very professional layout and everything, but it's not all pretty. We've become so sanitized and so against ununiformity. It's distressing. It's making us weak.
These shortages concern you?
They concern me, and for more reasons just than running out of ammo fighting Iran. Part of this is a math problem that we knew the answer for before this war started, right? We knew what our stockpiles were, and I used to work with the folks at the Defense Intelligence Agency who used to do their best to count how many missiles and drones Iran had.
And what happened there? Were those numbers good or bad before the president made his decision? You said you knew the numbers. You knew and I'm not saying anything that's classified here. Everybody knew that China was our near peer adversary. Russia wasn't going to do a thing. Russia knows better. but China doesn't. So what was your strategy then? All of a sudden you're coming out. It's like these like the alderman in Jackson yesterday who came out and said we're not having a data center put in for at least 183 days. No one's gonna freaking put in a data center. It's all of a sudden he's coming in and like, oh, we know all this now. Got the coat on, no tie. Oh, beta male.
And so, like, there's really two things that I want to draw out of here. One is that the folks, politicians and experts who were advocating for war with Iran, they were just kind of detached from reality.
Were we detached from reality, or were we given bad information by people like you? And then again, this all gets into Sun Tzu and Clausewitz and how you subscribe to fighting a war. Do you fight wars in layers and proportionality, or you just fight to win?
We've run out of up to 50% of strategic defensive interceptors a month into a war with a regional power, right? This is Iran. And from that, we also got to kind of extrapolate folks who are advocating for war with China. That is a global.
Has anybody here heard of going kinetic with China? I know we're at war with China economically and culturally. Why do you think China's spending up all that money in South Africa? Or not South Africa, but Africa, especially in the southern hemisphere. Let's think about this. This is such an inside hack job. It's astounding to me, and they just used out their puppets in the news journalists, this case CNN, to go ahead and make the case.
Power. The fact that we are totally unprepared for these conflicts is not an argument for us to gear up for war, but it should make us
completely unprepared. The United States has been, let's be realistic, we've been on a war footing since September 11th, 2001. And we, in our progression as both enlisted and officers, we go to joint service tours, we go to Pentagon tours, we get the breadth. You have to be spread out and know a little bit about everything so you understand how the war machine works. Staff tour, joint tour. And for him to say that we could possibly be unprepared to go to war, man, if this is a regional power and we're saying that this is weak, is America the paper tiger? I don't think we're acting like it. I think this is somebody trying to stir up some money to go to some defense contractors.
A little more introspective when we have people saying it's going to be a slam dunk and we really need to fight these wars. The other thing I want to pull out of this, I think, you could be watching this report about us running out of all these critical munitions and say, well, wait a minute, don't we have the most powerful military in the world? Don't we have the biggest military in the world? We just spent nearly $1 trillion on the Pentagon last year.
He's right. We just spent a boatload of money on it.
Why don't we have enough ammo? And I think it's important for folks to understand, especially as we move into talking about supplemental funding or a new defense funding bill, that these hundreds of billions of dollars that Congress gives the president for war largely do not go into things that we would say we need for war.
He's right. And we're going to get into it in a second, but you know what? It's like we got to keep the soldiers and sailors fed in the barracks and on the ships. We've got to do that. So that's a cost. The healthcare that's associated with that, the education that's associated with that. We're just not buying tanks and missiles, bullets, and beans. We're buying a lot of stuff.
The reason that we don't have enough air defense interceptors is because instead we've been spending that money on like these big projects that are kind of designed to be expensive. Like I hate to describe it this way, but a lot of this $900 billion budget, and that's what Congress passed last year. Nearly every Republican and over 50% of Democrats too.
See that right there? Well, there were some Democrats who were against it, but every Republican was for it.
Kind of becomes a slush fund for defense contractors.
There it is. And he's exactly right. Defense contractors. I was listening to a podcast the other day, And it used to be get the defense contract, and then it was a cost plus contract. So let's say the contract was for $100 million to provide so many missiles, and it's a cost plus contract. Oh, we thought it was going to cost 100 million, but it's actually going to be 250 million. Do you still want those 100 missiles? And now you're paying 2.5 million a missile instead of 1 million a missile. And that's how defense contracting has worked for the longest time. It's how it worked in NASA as well. And it's horrible. It's terrible. But I gotta let him get this last shot off because he is an Army guy.
Raytheon, Lockheed, instead of producing the defensive capabilities that you say we might need, instead of doing things like paying to get black mold out of the soldiers' barracks, instead of going towards getting better bomb shelters for the hundreds of U.S. troops who've been wounded in this war, we're building big vanity projects like.
Wait, build better bomb shelters? We know where am I gonna build them? United Arab Emirates? Al Jaber? I mean, this is what really irks me about when people start going out and critiquing military stuff. That it's after action report, and we'll hold each other accountable. But sitting there nitpicking in front of the U.S. public about what he thinks should have happened, instead of what is actually happening, very cheap. But here comes his cheap shot.
F-35 stealth fighter, which we learned pretty early on in this war is not that stealthy.
You don't even know what happened there. And when you think about all the air defense that we won't talk about that was in there, but was supplied, they had top of the line Russian and Chinese systems there. And you think about the golden BB, and now you're talking smack. Get the hell out of here.
Iran caught it on camera and shot at it, or like Ford-class aircraft carriers that the toilets don't work on.
Again, you know what? This is all great clickbait, but no real substance. And that's the problem I have with CNN and journalism. He's still got another 5 minutes to go. We're not going to listen to it. We're not going to put up with that crap. But I did want to subject you to it because you need to understand that this is a war that's going on, and we are expending stuff. But if you think for 1 minute that it is as bad as this guy is saying, I'm just gonna say I respectfully disagree. I'm not gonna say why. I'm not gonna turn out like that Army nuclear guy going to jail trying to shack up with some whoever, getting nailed by James O'Keefe. That's not me. No siree, Bob. No siree, Bob. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 1039 WYAB. You know, one of the things that the military taught me is make lemonade out of lemons, make chicken salad out of chicken, something else. And that's what they do. You know, the Microsoft computer want to do an emergency update. Hey, that's fine. We'll just take an early break and press on. Texter texting in saying Desert Storm was in January of 1991, so before 2001. Yeah, I agree that we did do some stuff in 2000 or in Gulf War One, brother. But I'm thinking where we actually started occupying Iraq, occupying in the Middle East, and trying to actually have culture change via the military, which still hasn't worked unless you do the Sun Tzu method, which is kill every man above the age of 8 or 9 and keep the woman for yourself. That's the only way you're going to have real culture change. And we don't do that because we're civilized. But I like that. Another unknown texter says, I really appreciate you breaking down these longer videos from CNN. It was good. Well, I'm glad you liked it. So I'm getting some positive feedback from it. Some of them said, Andy, do your own work. I'm like, well, this is what interests me. So with that, and then I did want to take a quick minute here. You know, we've got some awesome listeners on the radio show here at WYB who literally wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, turn on Chip, and listen until Kim gets off the air at 6. And one of those guys is Brother Willie. And Brother Willie, we know that you and your family are going through some times right now, but we love you, man. We love all of our listeners here, and we are all lifting you up in prayer, and your wife too. Don't think for a minute that just because I don't necessarily say it on the air every day that I don't have you and your family written down on my prayer wall. And I am grateful for having the freedom given to me by Matt, the station manager, to go out and say these things that are sometimes a little bit preachy, dare I say, a little bit biblical. But that's what it is. And I'll be telling you what, between now and the beginning of the next hour, be praying for me. Because what we're about to talk about is some volatile stuff. And to defeat your enemy, you must know them. And we are going to really get to know the Southern Poverty Law Center. And we're going to learn about the Klan in ways that perhaps you never knew. We're going to get into it because this is the playbook, Saul Alinsky's 10 Rules for Radicals. We're going to dive into it head first. And we're not afraid. We're coming from a place of love, a place of intelligence, educate and inform, while also entertaining. Hey, that sounds pretty good. That could almost be a catch line. Hope you appreciated the update on the war. I know we're replacing the Navy Secretary and all that. That's all politics, and I wasn't really interested in that. I was more interested in the bullets and the beans.
Reporting. I'm Steve Kathan. New comments from President Trump about Iran as the tension builds in the Strait of Hormuz.
Amid stalled peace talks and renewed questions about how long a ceasefire will last, the president posted, quote, Iran is having a very hard time figuring out who their leader is. They just don't know, unquote. The president also claimed the U.S. has total control of the Strait of Hormuz, saying it is sealed up tight until such time as Iran is ready to make a deal. Earlier today, Trump posted, I have ordered the United States Navy to shoot and kill any boat, small boats though they may be, that are putting mines in the waters of the strait. And he added, there will be no hesitation. Linda Kenyon, CBS
America
News.
will see even more clearly tonight where the Republicans are, not on the side of lowering costs, but on the side of masked agents occupying our streets. on Patel. Every day Kash Patel remains in this job is another day that undermines the FBI and its mission. Take yesterday's press conference. The head of the FBI, the nation's top law enforcement officer, spent the entire time getting into fights with reporters about his alleged drunken behavior. Trump has led us to war. Patel not function of the FBI, one of the most important law enforcement agencies' job, and in the last
Welcome back to hour 2 of the Andrew Gosser Show, right here on 103.9 WYAB. We're moving and grooving today as we're streaming on Rumble. We're streaming on X. We're streaming on YouTube. We're streaming at the mothership that is WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up the 50,000 watt blowtorch that is 103.9 WYAB, do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe to the stream. Send in a message. Shoot me a text. Feel free to call in if you want to call in. 601-879-0002. Text line's open. Getting lots of interesting war texts. 601-879-5060. But no matter what we're talking about, the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show is standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? Y'all are the saints. And, you know, this is a topic. I thought I covered it really good yesterday, but then brother Russ Latino over at the Magnolia Tribune decided that he wanted to chime in, which is his right. By the way, if you don't read Magnolia Tribune, I'm not saying I agree with it all the time, but it's some of the best local news reporting ever. And we're going to talk about the Southern Poverty Law Center some more. We're going to talk about the Klan exclusively, because I don't think people realize how evil the Klan was. Kids certainly don't understand. They know it's bad, but they get brainwashed. But before we start talking about Southern Poverty Law Center and their ties to white supremacist organizations, does the liberal Mississippi Free Press have anything about it? Nope. I'm just checking their website here real quick. Does Mississippi Today, the Pulitzer Prize winning nonprofit news, they have anything about it? I'm just checking here. I don't want to be misled. Nope. They're more worried about the UMMC cyber attack, about patient data and systems. They're not worried about real problems inside the community. Civil rights organizations with ties to white supremacist groups like the KKK. But that's all right. We all know you're fake news, but Russ Letourneau's not. And he can critically think. And he wrote a piece, and I'll share it on X. Federal indictment against the Southern Poverty Law Center hits close to home. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. And during the first couple parts of his piece, we discussed in depth and ad nauseum yesterday. And I really don't need to talk about that. The money laundering through the Southern Poverty Law Center, where they were taking donations from good-meaning folk who really wanted to fight the racism that exists in some pockets of this country. Yep. The leftists. Yep. They didn't realize that they were laundering money to white supremacy groups. And then he gets into there, and it's really well written. And of course, the SPLC denies any wrongdoing, according to Russ. Its leadership says the use of informants dates back to decades that was rendered to gather intelligence and to prevent violence. So they were giving money to the white supremacists to prevent the white supremacists from doing violence because they were gathering intel. Okay. But then he starts in this, and this is where Russ is bringing in information that you're not going to see on CNN or Fox News or ABC, NBC, CBS, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Slimes, the Washington Post. You're not going to see that. Russ did really good work, and Andy, you sure are promoting his name. And well, when you do good work, you get good praise. And when I disagree with it, I've come on the station before plenty of times and said I just don't agree with that. But knives aren't out like that. That's not how it works. He has this line in his article, and it says, Southern Poverty Law Centers reach into the Mississippi. For Mississippians, it's not just a national story. SLPC maintains a meaningful footprint here in Mississippi. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. In recent years, it's pledged $330,000 in grant money to the Parents Campaign, an Orwellian-named group that fights against giving parents school choice. The SLCP, fighting against school choice. I want to know who got money from the SLCP. I'll run a Grok algorithm after the show today to figure out who in Mississippi is taking money from the SPLC. Listen to this. The SPLC is connected to major litigation against the state, including redistricting battles. Embattled Hinds County District Attorney Jody Owens. Where did he get his start? If you guessed the SPLC in Mississippi, you would be right. He eventually faced allegations of sexual harassment and departed that organization and amid his campaign for district attorney right here in Hinds County. Apple don't fall too far from the tree. Most recently, SPLC staff have shown up as and is cited as experts amid a campaign to do away with frequent income eligibility checks used to determine SNAP benefits in the state. They're sitting there and they are fomenting the hate. They are spreading their wealth around. And it's causing a real problem here because it's funny. Bananas is coming to visit Toots. Miss Bananas is Toots' best friend from her youth. She lives out of state. And she was worried about having racial problems down here. And Toots was like, God, we got it good down here. But that's not how it's projected around the country. Do you know why Mississippi is projected around the country the way it is? It's because of organizations like the SPLC just doing deranged things. There's a role in labeling then there's the role in labeling hate groups. Organizations with Mississippi ties, including the American Family Association, have been designated by the Southern Poverty Law Center as a hate group. More recently, groups like Moms for Liberty have been included in its classifications. The organization has faced criticism for its hate watch. I am very familiar with being put on Southern Poverty Law Center's hate watch page. I'll tell you what, these people are just absolutely disgusting. And you're not going to hear about this on the Mississippi Free Press or WLBT. You're not going to hear about all the tie-ins. In 2017, political noted concerns from the SPLC was becoming more partisan, more of a partisan progressive hit piece operation than a civil rights watchdog. Shika, I guess that's how to pronounce it, Dalma, argued that the group was too busy enforcing liberal orthodoxology. Wow. Kimberly Strassel of the Wall Street Journal called it a far-left activist group and extends to smear conservatives. Yep, they do. And I've got the receipts right here. Let me go to my X account real quick. I want to read something to you. Because this has to be spoken about. I'm going to read this to you, and who do you think wrote this? The SPLC has added my organization to their ridiculous hate group list, right next to the KKK and the neo-Nazis, a cheap smear from a washed-up org that's been fleecing scared grandmas for decades. They somehow will rake in over $100 million a year peddling their hate map nonsense, sitting pettily by in their Montgomery poverty palace while crying out loud the hate to line to their pockets. Even the former staffers called their racket a con. That was Charlie Kirk on May 25th, 2025. I replaced Turning Point with my organization. There's another 3 paragraphs on this. Charlie ended it this way. Being on their list is a badge of honor. It means they're terrified and we're so effective. Keep crying, SPLC. America's done with your scam. And we are, because they fund racism. They fund strife and division in communities where we fight so hard, so hard. There's so many of us who sitting out there trying to do the right thing, try to go ahead and build bridges and mend bridges, not blow them up and burn everything to the ground. Even internally, the mission was, and this is Russ again, even internally, the mission has been described in stark terms. Former intelligence report editor Mark Potok once said the goal was to destroy these groups. And what are the implications of this? If the prosecutors are right, the implications are serious. You know, this group that goes around in Charleston with their khaki pants and their button-up shirts, and they look like white Nazis. I wonder if the SPLC is tied to them. It changes the entire dynamic of the last, well, 20 years, but really in the last since 2017 when they really started grinding this up. And we don't need to rehash all the charges that were done. We're not having to do all that. But we do have to take stock of what we are. And it's all fun and games till you start throwing around serious allegations of racism connected to the Aryan Nation and the KKK. And then there needs to be jail time for that. This organization has gone around destroying conservative thought that had nothing to do with hate, just conservatism. And I truly believe that they're demons inside the SPLC. And I can prove it. If the prosecutors are right, the implications are serious. Donors may have been misled public narratives that may have been shaped to an organization engaged in highly questionable conduct if it did not disclose it. And if the case is meritorious, it raises an obvious question. If the SPLC is willing to be dishonest about its own supporters, the very thing that says it exists to fight, what is it willing to do to further its political positions in a state of like Mississippi? Yep. What lengths are they willing to go to? They're willing to go ahead and fund the KKK. Now, the question I've got for everybody listening here is, how many people know how the KKK is actually organized in the United States, in Mississippi? How are we taught that in our history books? Hey, this is how the KKK organized itself. We get all up in arms when we find relics of the KKK from the 1960s. I remember reading comments saying we need to out every one of those people that they found on those lists. Yeah, Mississippi Free Press and Mississippi Today did all sorts of stories on that, but they can't do a thing on the SPLC. And the Department of Justice just doesn't throw out willy-nilly indictments like this. Grand jury agrees with it. When we get back, we're going to learn a lot more about the KKK than probably you've ever learned in your school. And we're going to do so in a way that is respectful, but so that this never happens again. And organizations like the SPLC are held to account. Highly recommend going to read the Magnolia Tribune's article by Russ Letourneau. I know I plugged it a few times, but it really added to the discussion. When we get back, we're going to hit it and hit it hard. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Yeah, welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show, right here on 103.9 WYAB, talking about the hard subjects, the difficult topics, the ones that other stations are either too afraid to talk about or secretly don't want to talk about it because they know it'll cause a little bit too much heat for their listeners, from their listeners. We're not afraid of talking about the tough stuff here at 103.9 WYAB. And everybody knows the KKK is bad. But how many people actually know how the KKK started, how it forms, how it exists, how it's truly demonic? When this was sent to me, I was like, "My gosh, is this the monster manual from a Dungeons and Dragons book?" And then I started thinking about it more and more, and this is just truly evil. Brother Roy texted in, "Don't forget to our indicted DA was employed by the Southern Poverty Law Center." Yep, Jody Owens. He was an employee there. He left under pretentious circumstances. And that's coming from the Magnolia Tribune. We're just not making that stuff up. Listen to this. So we know the KKK is bad. We know they wear white hoods. We know that they did terrible things to black people and some white people too. But where did this all start from? The sources of the rituals and even the titles of the KKK can be found in antebellum college fraternities and secret societies, such as the Ku Klux Klan. Earlier source material, however, states ceremony of initiation was borrowed from some of the features of the indoctrination of candidates from the long defunct Sons of Malta and other like societies. So this is going way back. I wonder if Skull and Bones is somehow linked up with the KKK. I love my life, by the way. I'm just saying I'm healthy as an ox. According to the 1907 Cyclopedia of Fraternities, J.C. Lester, one of the original members of the group, stated that the Klan rituals were modeled and embraced the leading features of the rituals with an older version, which has long been popular in many colleges and universities under various names. So, this racism, this KKK, is through all these universities. It's been taught. They've taken on rituals from the Sons of Confucius. I'm not even going to try to say that word. The Ancient and Honorable and the Mirth-provoking. Walter L. Fleming stated in a footnote to Lester's text that the contemporary early 20th century Southern college fraternity that most nearly mirrored the Klan was known as Alpha Sigma Sigma. I don't know who the heck Alpha Sigma Sigma was. And the institution of quote unquote snipe hunting. How many people realize that? The original prescript for the Ku Klux Klan was adopted by a convention in Nashville, Tennessee in April 1867. And to think that this went back so far, this has been going on for hundreds of years, quietly in the shadows, sometimes not in the shadows. And we think we got rid of it all, but we haven't. Now listen to this. Remember how I said this is demonic? The Ku Klux Klan is divided into the empire, realms, dominions, provinces. That sounds like hell to me. The empire, consulting the whole area of the Klan's activities. This was led by the imperial wizard and his staff of 10 genel, as well as a grand shubin and a grand scribe. Tell me this isn't just the most crazy crap. Realms. Is this like the Marvel in the Avengers, the 9 realms? Realms. While the whole role of the realms was laid out in the first prescript, they were only identified as states. So I guess Mississippi was a realm. Realms were ruled by a grand dragon who was assisted by 8 squires and a grand executor. Wow, that's, man, they went into such great detail, the Ku Klux Klan. And look, why am I going into this? Let us not forget. I got it right here. Paragraph 11, subparagraph H from the indictment of the Southern Poverty Law Center. Source was member of the Ku Klux Klan and married to the exalted Cyclops of the Ku Klux Klan. Source and their spouse were involved in litigation initiation whereby the Ku Klux Klan applied to take part in Adopt a Highway program. They were given $3,500. This is why we're going into this, because if we don't talk about it, the left is just going to glaze over it and everybody's going to sit there and not talk about it. Dominions, identified as the second precept of contentious with such counties as the grand dragons and the several realms that shall assign, and not to exceed 3 in number for each congressional district. The Klan went deep, ladies and gentlemen. Provinces, the second precept, identified by province equation to a county. It was supervised by a grand giant and assisted by 4 goblins. I need a shorter sharpness +6 to slay the goblins. And the grand executor and the grand scribe. It gets worse. They had dens. This was the basic level of organization for the reconstruction of the Klan. In the original precept, the chief officer was the Grand Cyclops, who appointed Nighthawks and a Grand Turk and a Grand Sentinel, a Grand Magi, a Grand Ensign. Why the hell was the Southern Poverty Law Center in touch with any of this? The silence is deafening. You know, there are really good people who don't have the time to invest to do all this research, who are being misled and betrayed by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Notice I didn't put a race on them or a sex on them or a political affiliation. I'm talking good people. And to think that the Southern Poverty Law Center has got all these different indictments on them, all these different charges, one indictment. Forgive my legal misspeak there. but it's breathtaking. They had grand monks and grand magis, and under the goblins were the ghouls. They had literally job descriptions for all these different things. They had initiation rites. The origin for initiation into the clan was called the Investigating Committee, composed of the Grand Cyclops, Grand Magi, and Grand Monk. Upon the nomination of a new member by a current member, the committee would investigate the candidate's antecedents and his past and present standings and connections. It then would pronounce the candidate competent and worthy to become a member. The Grand Turk would escort the candidate to a quote-unquote outpost where he would question him and administer the preliminary oath. After the Grand Turk would conduct the candidate to the den, the Grand Cyclops would administer the final oath. The second prescript elaborates that the candidate must have his left hand on the Bible and his right hand towards heaven. And let me tell you, there's nothing biblical about the Ku Klux Klan. In fact, when we get to the end of this, I'm going to prove it to you. In a 10-point interrogation that the candidate must answer satisfactorily in order to proceed with the final oath. The questions asked included, are you now or have you ever been married to the Radical Republican Party? Loyal leagues. Yeah, the Ku Klux Klan hated the Republican Party. I hate to break it to y'all. Republican Party was founded in Wisconsin to fight the Ku Klux Klan, and it was against slavery. I know everything's standing on its head right now, but with the SPLC being indicted for white racism, you'd think that everything else is pretty normal in 2026. There's so much more to this, but we got to take a break. I got to stay on schedule. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Yeah, you can't make this up. Yeah. And welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. It's just saying, you can't make this up. They had tribunals, man. The KKK had tribunals. A system of judiciary organs was created in each precept. The first judiciary was divided into a Grand Council of the Yahoos. I am not making this up. A Grand Council of the Yahoos inside the KKK to try officers of the Klan, and a Grand Council of the Centaurs to try regular ghouls. So you had your enlisted ranks, you had your officer corps. The KKK is evil. Why is the Southern Poverty Law Center giving money to an exalted centaur of the KKK? Did this exalted centaur sit on the Grand Council of the Centaur? I'm sorry, did this exalted centaur, exalted Cyclops sit on the Grand Council? And this is just the first era of the Ku Klux Klan. In the second era, they had something called an invisible empire. An invisible empire. And they broke it into realms again. Ladies and gentlemen, this evil has been going on for over centuries. And the thing that gets me, which I should have paid more attention to and I didn't, but the KKK hated the Republican Party, the Loyal Leagues, or the Grand Army of the Republic. Did you fight with the Union Army during the Civil War? Do you believe in Negro equality? Why is the Southern Poverty Law Center agreeing with the KKK and asking its recruits if they agree with Negro equality? This is tough stuff, man. This is 2026. And we're still having to talk about this stuff. Our education system has failed. Our public discourse has completely failed. We've got things like X and Rumble and Instagram. Kids can tell you who their favorite Gilmore bedside girl is, but they can't tell you about how much the KKK hated the Republican Party. It's just mind-blowing to me. And then we got Senator Chuck Schumer getting on the stoop and saying how great the Southern Poverty Law Center is. And I can see that argument. I really can. I can see the argument, the Southern Poverty Law Center has done some good stuff in the past, maybe. But everything that I see is rotten. They even criticize space policy, ladies and gentlemen. Our whole society is broken down and is divided. It's been sliced and diced so wickedly. It's truly spiritual. We're talking about tribunals. I don't want to break that down again. Here are the officials. The Supreme Grand Wizard, the Karif, which is the Vice President, the Kaikard, the Lecturer, the Kuid, the Chaplain, the Kilgrep, the Secretary, the Kaibi, the Treasurer, the Clad, the Conductor, the Clerigo, the Inner Guard, Sergeant of Arms, the Kexter, Outer Guard, and the Nighthawks, the Couriers. My gosh. It's got all sorts of vocabulary and membership levels. If you haven't taken the time to go realize exactly just how evil the Klan was and get to know your history, just more than sitting on the corner or on the stoop and saying, yeah, Klan is bad, but go through all the stuff. And there's some of the stuff here that was given to me. You know, I'm a brave man and I'm not afraid to say what needs to be said, but I can't put it in a way that makes it suitable for air. Sometimes there's things we just read or things that we just see that we understand and don't talk about. But who I'm really reaching out to right now is not those on the far left. Those of us who are in the sensible middle, asking ourselves, why do we have organizations in America, whether it's the left or the right, who are supporting organizations like this? There were groups inside the Klan called the Wrecking Crew, the Klan Bureau of Investigation, degree teams. They had finance committees. They had code words and phrases. Man, they did all sorts of weird stuff. It the history of the Klan, not good, not good. And we still don't the average Mississippian doesn't realize how deep this went. We thought that we got rid of it, and now the left has brought it right back into the public sphere again. I could talk about this a little bit more, but I'm genuinely done with it. I don't wanna belittle it anymore. And what I think I wanna switch into the Navy, change of command, and a couple other things, but I don't wanna do it in the middle of the segment. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take an early break, and when we get back, we'll reset and finish off the show. I wanna also say thank you to everybody who's texted me and given me positive feedback. Unknown texter says, "You have balls." Well, I'm a male, and, I think that's a good thing. Thank you. Oh, I almost forgot the most important thing. I said that this was a demonic organization, a way to bring hell onto earth. The 2 main signs of a Klan organization was, 1, the white hoods wearing a damn bedsheet over your head like a coward, but the other was the burning cross. Jesus died on that cross for you, for me, for everyone listening to my voice, and the Klan corrupted that symbol of love. They tried to corrupt it. That should have never happened. That's truly Satan trying to get into this world, or realm, or dominion, or whatever hell else the Ku Klux Klan wants to call it. Ku Klux Klan is evil, and don't let anybody else tell you otherwise, even if it is the SLCP. Oh, we had to give them money. Giving money to the Grand Wizard and the Exalted Cyclops. And you still supporting the SLCP? Man, you've got issues. You need to get your head checked. You are listening to the Andrew Gossett Show on 103.9 WYAB. Be right back. Yep. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Not afraid to talk about the hard things. I'm coming from a place of love, but sometimes we got to talk about some evil, evil stuff. And texts coming in. I honestly haven't had this many texts during the live show in a long time. I honestly didn't know that the Klan still existed. Not in any kind of serious way, that is. It looks like the SPLC had a major part in keeping them alive. Yeah, and that small donation from the Grand to the Exalted Cyclops was $3,500. There was a Grand Wizard one on there too. I can go look that up. But, I didn't even get to talk about their 2023 990 form. And there's a page in that form called Statement of Activities Outside the United States. It's Schedule F Form 990 and it's Southern Poverty Law Center. And listen to this. They have investments again, this is the form outside the United States. Central America and the Caribbean investments of $30,693,000. What the hell is the Southern Poverty Law Center doing in Central America and the Caribbean? Are they funneling illegal aliens up? Did they buy a retreat for all the hard work that they do supporting the Exalted Cyclops of the KKK? Did they build a fallout shelter on one of the islands? Did they make an investment in Epstein Island? It's one of those things where no one wants to sit here and talk about this garbage, but until we actually talk about it and get it resolved with real resolution, that includes Jody Owens. Someone needs to go ask Jody, what did you know and when did you know it? When was Jody Owens there at the Southern Poverty Law Center? He was in charge of the Mississippi delegation. He should know these things. Oh, I can't talk about it. I'm under indictment from the FBI. Not on this matter, you're not. No, 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 no. Just evil, evil stuff. People sending in links. Andrew, is this going to be available? Yeah, it's always available on Rumble, YouTube, and X. The stream is there. You can always go back and listen to it. Make sure on that stream it says that I'm perfectly healthy, happy, love my sweet bee. Excited to have going on a trip in June, ladies and gentlemen. I believe it is. I'll be going on a trip in June to go see my granddaughter and my kids, my 3 sons. Looking forward to that. Just putting that out there. Isn't it sad that in 2026 you actually have to say that you love your life on the radio because you're worried about some of the stuff that you talk about? We live in a weird, weird place, ladies and gentlemen. But it's not all bad. We do have technology. And if you use it for the right stuff, then hey, you're going to be all right. Last text coming in here. As a black man, I'm just saying thank you. Well, dude, I just appreciate you being a listener. Make sure to spread the word about the Andrew Gosser Show. We're all walking through this together. And look, everybody knows me well enough to know that if there's some Republican bull crap going on, I'll talk about that too. But this is just too grave of a story just to ignore. Way too grave. We seriously need to sit down in our schools and say, look at what the heck's going on. This is 2026. And how did the FBI even find out about this to begin with? It's like we find this little morsel and it just blows up into something. Think about all the stuff that we're not seeing. All the stuff that the military-industrial complex is getting by us that we don't know about. All the weapons and technology we don't know about. There's so much more out there, and it's just day after day. We come here and we talk about the stuff that needs to be talked about. I'm praying that tomorrow is a positive day, that we got some great stuff to talk about. I'm purposely got my positive news filter on. Looking for positive stories. If you got one, send it to me. I really appreciate everybody tuning in today. I'd also appreciate it if you shared the show. Appreciate all the texters that called in. And guess what? We'll be back again in about 22 hours to do it all again. Until then, take care, everybody. Be well, be blessed, and amen.